Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I am AA Ron, and this is the Inclusive Dad Podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, rate, or review the show on your favorite platform. We truly appreciate your feedback and would be honored if you shared the podcast with friends and family who might benefit. If you want to support us in our mission, please click on the link in the show description. Today, my guest is Sam Mitchell. Welcome to the show.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Why don't you start us off by just telling me a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so hello, everyone. My name is Sam Mitchell, and I run the podcast, Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's a podcast about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much. I've helped sponsors, a board of 8, and also an event planner in the hometown of Indianapolis, where I'm from. And I also do speaking engagements. I've spoken in Oklahoma, Orlando, Canada twice, and in the Orlando was 3 times actually, Stuart, Florida, and Washington, D.C. But what I'm trying to mainly is just change this population of autism that, in my view, gets ignored.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. So what do you are you saying the whole you feel like the whole population of autism gets ignored, or is there a specific? Okay.
I think
Okay.
there's more. I think I think my population gets ignored more. We get pushed off the boat more than someone maybe who's on the, I hate to say this word, but lower end who has a mindset of a 3-year-old. They may get a
Okay.
little more sympathy, but even then, it shouldn't be out of sympathy. It should be because you like them.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. So when you applied to be on the podcast, you submitted what your definition of inclusion is. So I'll read that. So inclusion to me is involving anyone, no matter what their background is. Do you want to expand on it a little bit, or?
So I can go into that.
Sure.
So inclusion to me means you accept them for who they are, period. Whether they're have purple skin, example. Now I was raised that if you have purple skin, who cares? You love them. You don't judge a person based on what they look like. And I don't even judge a person on intelligence. If you got D's and F's in school, okay. I would rather you have the other ones, I'm not going to lie, but it's none of my business. I'll
Right.
judge you based on how you treat me.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Um, so can you how was growing up for you in school? Did you have an IEP and stuff like that,
I did have
or?
an IEP.
Okay.
The staff was great, but the students, it really was not a good time dealing with people around my age. I was
Okay.
excluded. I dealt with the bullying, all the stereotypes that come with autism, you could probably imagine. And at one point, it got so bad, I finally just gave in. But after giving in, I realized it wasn't working for me. I wasn't happy. I considered even taking alcohol as a as a pill, I would
Right.
say.
Right.
But at 16, I decided to just be myself, quit people pleasing, see if it works. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, great. I'm happy, period. Well, it
Right.
worked because I made friends. I got to go to places with friends. I got to feel more confident. I started a podcast. And now I'm carpooling with people.
That's awesome. So, what made you do that? You just kind of got fed up and got to a point where you
Yeah,
had to make a change,
it
and
was
that's
it was
okay.
out of anger and vengeance.
Right. So, so before that point, you were kind of more just like not really being your true, authentic self. Kind of, is that what you're saying?
Correct. And I mainly
Okay.
hid in the corner. Whereas
Okay.
now I'm beginning to dance floor and dance off the bat. I had a crazy personality back then, but I was scared to show it.
Right. Well, I applaud you because I'm 47 and I only the last 5 years have been more comfortable just kind of trying to be the authentic me. So that's awesome that you um, were able to do that much younger than me because that would have saved me a lot of issues as I got older. So I applaud you for that part.
Thank you. I'm working on it still to this day. I can get a little
Yeah.
perhaps um, too defensive. and not realize it.
No, that's all good. So you said you were excluded? Can you go into a little bit like how you were excluded and stuff?
Well, it was just the exclusion was mainly you couldn't figure out a way to converse with me. So I just got, instead of trying to get chatted with, I was just ignored.
Sure.
I mean, my talks weren't like they are now. I mean, you're responding. Back then, it was ghost whispers.
Okay.
It was like talking, that. Here's Sam.
Okay. Yeah. Do you so you said you had an IEP. Did you go to your IEP meetings and stuff?
I went to my IEP meetings.
Okay.
They were all right. I mean,
they're all right.
They definitely helped me out. I think it was fair that I was involved with my academics. So yes, I did go to them, and I wouldn't have any other way. I know some parents choose to not, and for other reasons. I think that's a preference in my view.
Right.
If you want your child to be involved, great. If you don't, they don't need to be necessarily, in my opinion. Right. I think they should, but I also believe that if you don't let them, you're also taking away the maturity aspect.
Yeah. Like, did you always go to your IEP meetings, or was it more when you got older?
More when I got older than I recall. Okay. The ones I recall were in middle and high school. I could have been going to my ones in elementary, but I've been in elementary. I've been in elementary way before I was in college, and I've slept since elementary school.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, so I have a daughter. She's 22. She just turned 22, so she aged out of the transition age for school, and she went to her IEP meetings when she was older. Yeah, but we kind of left it up to her. Like, if you want to be there, cool. If you don't want to be, that's up to you. So, yeah.
I'm 22 too.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just turned 22 about a couple weeks ago, so not too long ago.
Oh, well, happy belated birthday to your daughter.
Thanks. Yeah, so you graduated high school, now you're in college. What are you going to college for?
I'm going to college for broadcasting currently. I'm thinking about staying maybe a couple extra years. I'm going back and forth with it. Okay. I'm considering getting my bachelor's degree, but I don't know if I'm going to do more math.
Yeah. So what do you want to do with your broadcasting degree?
Well, I mean, I love to do some with radio, mainly some of the audio. I always like the audio side of the media aspect. I'm not the best with video. I'll do it if I have to. I'd prefer not, but I'm not going to, complain if I get a job. Job's a job, right?
Exactly.
But I'd rather prefer working with audio. So radio station. I did an internship at WQRK.
Okay.
And I learned a lot about the radio station, and it takes a lot to get on a show. People don't realize that.
Yeah. A lot of work?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. So you said you started your podcast when you were 16?
Mm-hmm. Started when I was 16.
Okay.
Really? Well, I had Thundercast going on at that time span, but my podcast was 17. I found it after I joined my high school's media club. But I loved it so much, I didn't want to wait till college. Sure. So I decided to start early. I always am a firm believer in starting early.
Yep.
That's something of a life philosophy I have in mind is just, let's not wait till adulthood to get your life going. Let's start now.
Yeah.
And after starting early, that was when I decided to just not go to college for a little bit and start my own podcast while still being in high school. That was when Autism Rocks and Rolls was born.
Okay. So how many shows have you done?
Oh my gosh, bro. I lost count. I'm on season 3 right now, and each season has 60 episodes total, so you'll have to do the math on that one.
Okay. That's quite a bit. Yeah. I just started my podcast in the beginning of August, so yeah, not nearly where you're at, but it's a lot of fun. So what have you learned by podcasting?
Audio production. I didn't realize how much audio production involves timing. And I'm not a fan of time. So in a way, I'm doing something I also hate. not
Yeah.
not the broadcasting. I love hearing the voices
Right.
I hear, not in my head, but on the screen.
Yeah.
But I just hate math, as I mentioned before. And
Yep.
in the way, I'm doing math because I have to deal with darn time.
Right. So that part you don't like. Yeah.
Oh no, it's not the most fun thing alive, but you know what? It's a small price to pay.
Yeah. So that's great. Do you what do you do for fun besides the podcast stuff?
Well, I mean, a big guy likes to go out to eat. I definitely am a guy who loves Texas Roadhouse. um, I've always been a guy who likes professional wrestling. I've interviewed several wrestlers on the show. I've had Mick
Oh,
Foley, Kane on, RVD, Buff Bagwell, Raven, and Victoria. And I'm trying to think of who else. Sorry, I always forget. Al Snow. There we go. Here's the name I forgot there. RVD, Raven, Kane, Jake the Snake Roberts.
wow.
So back in the golden age.
Yeah.
And then had America's Got Talent, American Idol contestants as well. So, but it came from my love of professional wrestling. I also am a guy who I haven't ridden a motorcycle, but I like motorcycle noises. Go figure.
Okay.
I think my dad grew up on motorcycles, so that's why. And then definitely, as I call it, country boy habits. So definitely am a bit of a country boy. So it's odd enough. I don't like to hunt, but I do like to fish. I mean,
There you go.
I've always gone on a fishing trip with my dad, and that's some of the best times I've had.
That's cool. That's pretty crazy. You had Mick Foley, you said? That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool.
I pretty much just think there's a lot of behind the scenes people who helped me out with that.
Okay.
But I got to meet him before a couple times. Once was in a toy store, and then they helped me out. I had him on the show, and then saw him at a comedy club up in Bloomington, and we just became friends.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm not super into wrestling, but I watched it in the '90s, so I always like Bill Goldberg. Do you ever heard of him?
I've heard of Bill Goldberg.
Yeah, he was pretty crazy when I was watching. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Who's like is there somebody that you want to have on your show you haven't been able to get to yet? Like,
I tried millions of times. Eminem and Gordon Ramsay.
Wow, there you go.
I'm a guy who shoots for the stars, man. As you can tell, I'm a go big or go home guy, which has worked and not worked in many ways. Didn't work today, clearly.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That would be awesome. Get Eminem or Gordon Ramsay. That'd be cool. What do you want to ask Gordon Ramsay?
Well, I mean, if you hadn't noticed, his foul mouth clearly, but there's a reason why, and it's because his story. I mean, I just want to know more about his story and how it shaped him more into the man he has today. Because we know his foul mouth has partially came from where he came from.
Sure.
I want to expand on that a little more.
There you go. Well, kind of to go with that, what made you what you are today? Besides anything we haven't talked about, like what other?
Well, the story for one thing is, I think just because of getting frustrated after 15 years of not understanding this world that pretty much is not built for me, I just had to see and figure it out myself. Yeah. I think we all know experience sometimes is the best teacher.
Right. For sure.
And I just had to learn instead of people telling me what to do, how to behave, how not to behave, was just through experience.
Right.
And for the most part, it's worked well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a big deal. Trying things, failure is part of the process. So I know as a parent, sometimes I don't want my kids to fail, or you want to kind of make it easier, but that's not always good either. I mean, everybody needs to try things. You want to do something, it might not work, but it might. So try it out, and if it doesn't, learn from it and keep going forward.
Yeah, so that's all you can do. Keep pulling it.
Yeah. Do you have any siblings?
Oh God, no. I kill people. I'll be honest with you, I am not a guy who likes to play well with others.
Okay.
So if I had a sibling, we'd probably fighting over who gets the basketball. I already have enough like best friends who already act like brothers, and they already drive me crazy enough. So that's enough for me.
That's enough for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you said you go fishing with your dad? Is that in Indiana or where do you go fishing?
We do sometimes, but
Okay.
there's a place up in Mississippi. It's called Batesville, and the lake's called Lake Sardis. It's a really big lake,
Okay.
and we fished there several times, and
That's,
it's fun. Now I'll be honest though, you better find some. There's not a lot to do there other than good restaurants, which is good. You'll eat well,
yeah.
but your main thing you're doing there is fishing. Don't expect any tourist attractions.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it is literally like a town with nothing. There's probably a lot of people who stop there to go somewhere else, maybe.
Okay. Sure.
But don't, if you're looking for like a touristy amusement park, things to do town, don't go there.
Yeah. So you mentioned that like the world isn't built for you. Can you like give examples of like what isn't built, like how it's not built for you?
The way people socialize makes no stinking sense is a good example. I mean, it makes no sense. It's so fast. I need time to process your statement.
Right.
The way I wish people would socialize is, I don't know if you've seen certain movies back in the day, but in like movies, there's always like, or like in blocks. Here's a good example. It's season 1 Family Guy. I don't remember why I remember this. But person would talk yabba, 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 and there'd be like silence for like maybe 5 seconds or 5 minutes. Okay. Well, then here, yabba, 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 yabba. And then maybe another 5 seconds. Yabba, 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 yabba. Another 5 seconds. Yabba, yabba, yabba. Another 5 seconds. Yabba, yabba, yabba. You get the drift.
Right.
Where today it's too long. Give me a minute here. Right. I need time to process what you just said. Right. I need to be season 1 Family Guy, not season 23 of Family Guy way.
Right. So if you are in a conversation and the person is like talking super fast, what do you say something to them, or just how do you handle that?
I try my best, or sometimes I'll just nod my head and politely respond, yeah. Or I'll ask them to say it again, or sometimes I'll just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because my daughter, she takes a little time to process too. So, sometimes when we're in a hurry, I'll ask a question and then I don't pause long enough, and then it just doesn't work out good. So yeah, that's a good reminder to just more in general, speak and then pause, give the person time to be able to hear stuff and understand it and respond back to you. So that's a good tip. Is there other ways the world's not made for you?
Well, I think sometimes people are pansies. You've heard the phrase, the truth hurts, right?
Right.
I do not care. I will spill the beans, and if it makes you mad, I'm not proud to say this, but I am a nice guy. But when you make me mad, you make me mad. And I'll spill the beans, and then I wash my hands over it.
Right. So you don't sugarcoat it, you just tell it like it is?
Yeah, I don't sugarcoat. I will tell you, dude, if you're going to do what you're doing,
right,
that is dumb as hell. But now I might tell you why it is. I won't be like, well, that's dumb. See ya.
Yeah.
I might tell you, buddy, this is dumb. Here's why, though.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair to leave people hanging, at least.
For sure. When you were in school, were you in like gen ed classes, or were you in?
Yeah, I was in general education classes.
Okay.
But what my accommodations was, I get a float pass to a resource room. And in this particular resource room, I would get, extra time on tests. I could listen to music to chill out. Maybe a 5-minute break from academics. Sure. Maybe extra help. Yep. Extra help with assignments like algebra, math homework. Maybe understand a lecture. Or maybe just trying to figure out a way to comprehend a question.
Sure. So could you use it? Was there like limitations around like how many times a day you could use it, or like how much time you can?
Not as much as I wanted to.
Okay. That's cool. How did you use it? Did you have to just go talk to the teacher, or how did you?
I talked to the teacher like, hey, I got a pass. You think I could go? And a lot of the teachers are really good with disabilities. Like I said, it's one of the best schools for special education. So they knew what was up. Right. I think one of the teachers actually before he was a teacher, went and was a TA or observed her classroom. So that teacher knew what was going on in that room.
That's cool. Well, I like that because you have to like advocate for yourself. I need to go there to do this, so that's a good skill to have too.
Right, and I like I said, I talked it out, and it went good.
That's cool. So you said, so your podcast, you get people on to talk about, just find out more about their stories. Is that kind of
figure out more about their stories?
Okay.
My only rule is you have to have a story. That's my only condition. I mean, you can't just come on for the sake of it.
Okay.
But if you want to come on and you got autism, you got a car crash and survived.
Okay.
I want to learn about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talk a little bit more about your speaking. Do you have like a standard speech you give, or how does that work?
I mix it up.
Okay.
So what I try to do is I'll keep my material, but I'll try to also incorporate the theme of the conference.
Sure.
So this one, I'm going to be speaking out of West Virginia, is from what I know about caregivers and parents. So It's going to be a little different compared to when I previously spoke at an elementary school to elementary students.
Yep, for sure. Well, that's kind of cool. Do you, when you go do speaking like that, do you just hang around a couple extra days and do stuff, or you just go there and come right home?
Well, it depends. We're not going to beg to stay an extra day. I mean, if it's 2 days, like this one's coming up, we're probably just going to stay, have a nice dinner, and go home.
Sure.
But if it's like a long-term, week conference, like the one in Orlando's Podfest, I stayed around and did a little exploring. Yeah. I didn't go too far. I didn't go far from the hotel, but I did do a little bit exploring.
That's cool. You went to Podfest in Atlanta? When was that?
Orlando.
Orlando?
That was, yeah.
Last year?
That was, they did it in the summer of 2021, I think.
Okay.
But it's been hard to go because they changed it up to winter.
Yep.
And I like to go in air. I mean, I will if I have to, but I would rather prefer not to go in airports in the winter.
Okay.
But they now moved it to winter. Yep. And because of the reason I just said, plus I'm in school right now.
Sure. Yep.
It's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about going down to the one in January in Orlando, so I might be there for that. We live in Minnesota, so we try to like get out of Minnesota probably January, February for a little bit just to get some warmth. So that's might be our escape.
Well, I'm going to tell you from a personal experience, you will enjoy Podfest.
Awesome.
It is a fun time. You make a lot of good connections who actually are there to help you. Awesome. And it's not like they're playing you off. They actually want to help.
Yeah.
There's no BS.
That's cool. So what's your experience been with the podcast community as far as like in relationship to like disabilities? Are they open to it, very accepting? Like how do you?
Well, it's been mostly good. They want to help you out. The one thing I like about this podcasting community, in my opinion, there's no competition. They want to help each other out. Sure. Except once I got told to booger off, which was hilarious. Because I apparently I offered too much for editing services. His response when I put it on Facebook, booger off. I don't admit I pretty much laughed hysterically. Yeah.
Well, that's good. You found it pretty good community. Have you connected with a lot of other podcasts, people with autism, or is there a lot of podcasts?
I have a lot of friends nationwide. I mean, the one person in Podfest I actually met in Orlando. We've stuck around. I've talked to her here and there, but I think I went to Orlando a following year for another conference, something completely separate, and we met her for dinner. Actually,
that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it and meeting other people. I've been trying to find some more local stuff in Minnesota where podcasters meet up. I haven't found anything, so it'll be kind of fun to be in a room and meeting other podcasters for sure.
It's fun. It's fun. You just got to find your right people. And
yeah,
I'll tell you this, I bet Jen Hardy's going to be there. There's your first step right there. That's the person's name who I met, and she
Okay.
has several children with autism too. So
Awesome. It said Jen Hardy.
yeah, Jen Hardy. And if you say the name Sam Mitchell, she's gonna know who you're talking about.
Will she?
I hope she does. I think she'll remember me.
Think she'll remember you? Yeah, probably, huh? That's cool. So you're in your dorm room, so you have to study still today, or
God no. The
Yeah.
best thing with one of these, not today at least. The
Okay.
best thing with this is, and this is what I always like. I've never been a person who likes to learn through tests, papers.
Sure.
That's just not been my style as I've grown up, and I've always hated that. The way
Yep.
I like to learn is hands-on projects.
Yep.
So instead of like making a 4-page paper, let's make something about, I'm going to think of something here around, 5-page book.
Sure.
That'll be due within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. I'm open for that.
Yeah. No, that's also good points. Especially in college or even in elementary, middle, high school, where it's some people can show that they know the skill one way, but not everybody can. So having different options.
It's never been pencil and paper with me.
Yeah.
It's just you got to find you got to think outside the box with me, man.
Right. Well, that's cool. So they came up with other ways that you could show that you knew how to do stuff.
Yeah.
And
I'm saying this in my degree, most, not all, I have a class right now that does paper and pencil.
Yep.
But most of my classes are projects and hands-on.
Yeah.
And assignments that have extensive deadlines.
Sure. Do you like working on projects by yourself or with a group?
Yeah, I mean, preferably by myself, but if the group mates do their work, I don't really care.
Yes.
It's when they don't do their work that I'm not a happy camper. We all have parts. Do it. Yep. It's a team effort, not a single boy effort.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I remember times when I was in college and had projects and somebody's not doing it and it gets down there and I'm like, crap, I'm just going to do their part because I don't want to get a bad grade, which I shouldn't be doing, but I don't want to fail. So here we go. So that happens. Yeah, for sure. What is one tip that you can share to help our listeners be more inclusive today? Just not something they have to
a tip that we can share to be more inclusive is you need to see how people treat you, not what they look like. Who cares what they look like? Right. Who even cares about their intelligence? My rules with me is if you're going to be associated with me, you need to be nice and know right from wrong. Okay? That's it. I mean, if you make F's in school but are such a nice person and you know better not to rob a bank or go murder someone, okay, cool.
Right.
Like I said, I prefer you make A's and B's. I'm not going to lie to you there. But you know what? I'm not going to punish you for knowing right from wrong. That's not right. Yeah. That, in my opinion, as humans, is morally wrong.
Yeah. I agree with you. That's a great point. Is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't discussed yet?
Well, I mean, fun fact, I once did a TED Talk on structure. It's about why those on the autism spectrum need structure. Okay.
That's cool.
I had to be virtual because of COVID, but it's still presented as a TEDx talk. It's on my website, which my website, in case you are all wondering, is autismrocksandrolls.com.
There you go. I've done 2 TEDx talks. I did one 10 years ago and one this year, both on inclusion. So that's pretty awesome. Did you have fun doing it? Did you have fun doing it?
I definitely had fun doing it. I had fun doing it. It was very different because if it was in person, there was a lot of rehearsing. Yeah. But there are different portions I had to make, and I got to see it still, which is pretty cool. And I can say I'm a qualified 10X speaker, which I know there's a lot of Americans that can say it, but not every American can say it.
Nope, for sure. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. What city was it in, or what?
Bloomington, Indiana, too.
Okay, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I had a lot of fun both of them. My first one was pretty fun. It was a lot of fun. Both of them were, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Are you gonna do another one?
I thought of it, but with school going on, I just
Yeah.
don't have the time. Maybe when I get out, but we'll see what happens down the road.
Yeah, that's cool. Ready for the final question?
Sure. Spill the beans.
You like spam, yes or no?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked that question of all my guests because I live in Austin, Minnesota, where they make spam. So I mean, spam.
Well, let me put it this way: it's not my most favorite product alive. I've been known to eat it though.
Okay. Well, that's understandable. And so, if you ever want to visit the Spam Museum, you'd have to come to Austin because that's where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah. You already talked a little bit about it, but where's the best place for everybody to connect with you?
The website, Autism Rocks and Rolls, but you can find me on all your favorite media platforms. I'm not a hard guy to find. If you Google me, your search engine optimization, something will pop up.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. To all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Inclusive Dad Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, or review the show. Your feedback helps us connect with more champions of inclusion. Remember to share this podcast with friends and family who might benefit. If you want to support us in our mission, please click on the link in the show description. Together we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.